Hello again, and welcome back to our Naruto walkthrough. Today we are going to talk about Madara and the succession of good moves he played. Before we start, let us quickly sum up Madara's position. We will be analyzing his moves starting from the moment he summoned, chapter 559. His goal is obviously to get the Jubi. So tell me, when he is summoned, what are the main problems Madara has? Madara's first problem is that he has been summoned with Edo Tensei, meaning his current body cannot absorb the Jubi. His summoner can control him to some extent, and his summoner happens to be Kabuto, one of Madara's competitors, since Kabuto also wants to get the Jubi for himself. Next big problem is, Obito has the Rinnegan, which you also need to absorb the Jubi. And Obito of course wants to get the Jubi for himself as well. Finally, Madara doesn't have that much time to work with, because Obito is actually close to summoning the Jubi. So Madara needs to act fast. What about his assets? Madara's first asset is his fighting power. Madara is the strongest ninja in the war, meaning he can go anywhere he needs to without worrying too much about someone managing to defeat and seal him. His next asset is less intuitive. Madara is being underestimated. It may sound a bit counterintuitive, because in the Naruto world, it is well known that Madara is one of the strongest men who ever lived. But the thing is, he is feared mostly as a fighter, as a warlord, not really as a long-term planner. People in Naruto don't really know how intelligent Madara is. Additionally, Madara is underestimated when it comes to information, because as far as everyone knows, he has just been summoned with Edo Tensei decades after his death, so he doesn't really have any idea what's going on. As we are going to find out, that is not the case. Information is, in fact, one of Madara's assets, because Zetsu is keeping him informed in real time about what's going on in the war, what Obito is doing, what Kabuto is doing, when Edo Itachi will reach Kabuto, etc. Zetsu himself is an asset for Madara. Of course, as a reader, we know that Zetsu is not truly loyal to Madara, but in practice, for the moment he is, because Zetsu does need Madara to get revived and to get the Jubi. So until that happens, their goals are aligned. Alright, let us see the good moves. Please let's have a look at Madara's very first dialogue after being summoned by Kabuto. What is the purpose of this dialogue? Chapter 559. Well, the idea is, if your opponents underestimate you, make sure they keep doing so. Here Madara is pretending he genuinely expected Obito to follow the plan and revive him with Rinne Tensei. So he's acting as if he had no idea what is going on. Let us see the follow-up. In the next chapter, Madara asks Kabuto about the ongoing war and about the Ninja Alliance. Now this is a discrepancy because, as we are told 100 chapters later, Madara in fact already had access to such information thanks to Zetsu. So Madara is asking questions he already knows the answer to. One chapter later, we also see Madara trying to summon the Kyuubi, despite knowing full well that Naruto hasn't been captured yet, and Obito is in fact still fighting Naruto. So Madara is making a show of pretending he has no idea what is going on. And his plan works. As you can see here, it only took a couple of chapters for Kabuto to be fully convinced that he was in complete control of Madara. Of course, Kabuto is wrong. So that is our first little plot for Madara. He is actively hiding the fact that someone, Zetsu, is keeping him informed, which is why he keeps asking dumb questions. Let's continue. In one of Hirusen's tutorials, we saw that personalities can be fake. This is a technique Madara is going to use. So tell me, what is the personality Madara displays throughout the novel? Well, one of Madara's main traits is that he enjoys fighting. Here, for example, you can see Madara excited about testing his new Mokuton techniques. Here you can see Madara getting excited about challenging himself against the Hokage. And here, Madara enjoying the battle. There would be many more examples, but you got the idea already. Now this personality is a discrepancy, because if Madara enjoyed fighting so much, he wouldn't be trying to create a world where fighting will not exist anymore. Madara's fighting personality is in fact mostly fake. This has two purposes. First, his opponents underestimate him because they see him primarily as a fighter. This fake persona is aligned with that. And secondly, if Madara needs, for example, to delay the conclusion of a battle in order to reach his long-term goal, then his opponents are going to assume he's just prolonging the fight because he enjoys it. So Madara's personality is fake. Let's continue. Our opponents underestimate us, that's great, but what is the next step? Well, Madara's most immediate problem is that he is still controlled by Kabuto, who wants to use him to get the Jubi for himself. Fortunately, Edo Itachi is about to deal with Kabuto. So ideally, Madara just needs to wait a bit longer until he gets too close to the Jubi. He just needs to buy a little bit of time until Kabuto has been defeated. And for that, he has a perfect excuse, the Hokage. Here you can see Madara getting stalled on purpose against the Hokage. He's toying with them, wasting time with Mokuton clones, etc. This is where the fake personality we just saw is already being useful. Madara is obviously prolonging a fight that he could end easily if he wanted to, but his opponents just assume he's doing that because he enjoys fighting. When Kabuto does get defeated, Madara immediately plays a cute little move. He pretends he wasn't expecting Edo Tensei to be cancelled. Again, Madara is trying to keep his opponents underestimate the amount of control he has over his position. There is one more thing Madara has been consistently doing during his battle against the Hokage. Can you spot it? Madara has been talking a lot about Hashirama. For example, after showing his perfect Susanoo, Madara explains that only Hashirama would have been able to defeat him. He complains a lot that the Kage are too weak compared to Hashirama. He explains that Tsunade's healing technique is inferior to that of Hashirama, etc. Now tell me, what is the purpose of this move? The idea is, Madara knows there is a strong possibility that Obito might get the Jubi before he does. Should that happen, Madara would need to find a way to defeat the Jubi-empowered Obito. Let's call him Jubito. In order to defeat a Jubi Jinchuriki, you need Sage Mode. And you need to be powerful in general. So Madara would have a lot to gain if Hashirama joined the battlefield. Hashirama would help the Alliance fight Jubito, and Madara could steal Sage Mode from him. So what Madara is actually trying to do here is bait the Alliance into summoning Edo Hashirama. He's telling them, look at me, I'm too powerful for you, but if Hashirama were there, he could stop me. Of course, as we know, this plan is going to be unnecessary in the end, because Sasuke and Orochimaru are going to summon Hashirama for completely unrelated reasons. But it was still a good move by Madara, who is trying to create options for himself. He's looking at the possible scenario for the future, and he's trying to give himself options to deal with them. Let's move on. After Kabuto's defeat, Madara gets to play more active moves. Let us jump to chapter 600. Madara joins Obito, and tell me, how do we get the Jubi from this position? We will see that after a break, because I'm getting tired. Alright, the first move is the same as always, asking for information we already have. Madara is hiding how much he knows in order to give Obito a full sense of control. This move right there is especially important because at this point of the novel, Zetsu is faking defeat. Madara doesn't want Obito to suspect that Zetsu might in fact still be active. But let's move on. So tell me, if we quickly look at Madara's position, there is a high risk that Obito might be able to get the Jubi before him. In that scenario, if we do have a Jubito to deal with, what would still give Madara decent odds? Madara still has two advantages. First, the Jubi is still incomplete, because the Hachibi and the Kyubi haven't been captured yet. Meaning, Jubito will not be as powerful as he should be. He's still going to be quite powerful, of course, but not as invincible as he would be with a complete Jubi. The second thing is, the Alliance still has quite a few powerful fighters, such as Naruto himself, who can help Madara defeat Jubito. So Madara's first priority is going to be to keep those two assets as they are. In other words, Madara wants to make sure Naruto and B will not be captured until Obito can get the Jubi. So of course Madara is going to lie. As you can see here, he claims he's going to capture Naruto and B, when he is in fact doing the opposite. He does use a few impressive techniques, like this Mokuton one, but really he's just stalling and buying time. Madara is also protecting Obito from Naruto to some extent by keeping Naruto busy, because while Obito very much is his enemy at this point, he does need an alive Obito to revive him with Rinne Tensei. In the next chapter, you can see Madara is talking big, but remaining mostly ineffective. Look at this move, for example, against Guy Suludol. Very beautiful move. Madara is getting blasted away. This accomplishes two things. First, it allows Naruto to break free from his Mokuton technique, and more importantly, Madara is starting to shift the Alliance focus away from him, because in this scene, Madara looks beatable. He's still very strong, of course, but beatable. So the Alliance is going to start getting the idea that their main problem is the Jubi, and Obito is a Jubi, whereas Madara is just a loose end you can deal with afterwards. Very good move. Let's continue with two wonderful pieces of dialogue. Can you see the point of this dialogue right there? So Madara is outright begging Obito to revive him, and begging is something you only do when you're completely desperate. Madara is giving Obito the idea that he is out of options and Obito is in full control. Next, please have a look at this scene shortly after Edo Hashirama joins the battlefield. What is the point of this little dialogue? Well, here, Madara is outright turning himself into comic relief. That's the only way to put it, really. And of course, this is meant to keep shifting the Alliance focus away from him and onto Obito. So as you can see, while he's pretending to be a proud warrior, Madara is not above ridiculing himself if it can help him reach his long-term goals. But let's move on to the big highlight of this video. We are about to see Madara's most brilliant move. Get ready. In fact, maybe you have already found Madara's best move. The move is this Rinne Tensei right there. Let's get back to our methodology. Can you find discrepancies with this Rinne Tensei? Well, the discrepancy is this Rinne Tensei would be completely stupid. Let's say Madara does get revived here. What happens next? What happens next is Madara is dead, no question. He would be revived blind and without any Sage Mode to compensate. He would be revived in the middle of the Alliance with several characters such as the Edo Hokage, Naruto, Sasuke, etc. ready to jump on him and kill him. And he wouldn't even be able to make a beeline for the Jubi, because he wouldn't have a Rinnegan, and even if he did, the Jubi is far away, within a barrier, so Madara wouldn't have physical access to it. So this Rinne Tensei would just be suicide, nothing more. At this point, Madara really needs to concede and let Obito get the Jubi. His best chance is to let Obito and the Alliance weaken each other, and then backstab Obito and get revived in more favorable circumstances. So, what is your conclusion regarding this Rinne Tensei? The conclusion is, this Rinne Tensei was fake. What a move. So, Madara doesn't have any intention of getting revived at this specific point, but with a fake Rinne Tensei, he makes it seem it was his last-ditch attempt. This Rinne Tensei was his very last chance, and it failed. So Madara is now completely defeated. You can forget about him and focus on Obito. What a wonderful move by Madara. Let's move on to the finishing touch. Can you see the next move Madara played? The next move is losing on purpose against Edo Hashirama. What a move once again. At this point, the Alliance is still engaging Obito in battle, so Madara wants to make it seem he is completely defeated, and Naruto and Sasuke, etc. can keep focusing on Obito. But as you can see, while Madara is making it seem Hashirama is winning, he did in fact impale Hashirama with black receivers. So Madara is in fact ready to immobilize Hashirama anytime he wants in order to take his Sage Mode, and if needed, backstab Obito. Madara's plan worked perfectly. As you can see, Naruto himself even says he completely forgot about him. Big mistake. Let us conclude this episode. We have learned today that, rather than a proud warrior, Madara is a great strategist who kept faking weakness from the moment Kabuto summoned him. He consistently played good moves, culminating into his fantastic fake Rinne Tensei attempt. But of course, Madara is not the main antagonist, so he does have a couple of true weaknesses. Can you spot them? Madara's first weakness is that he genuinely sees himself as a savior, as a messiah. As a result, when things are getting a bit too convenient for him, when everything seems to be going well for him, He doesn't suspect that someone might be setting him up. From his perspective, he is the Messiah, so of course fate would favor him. Big mistake. Madara's second mistake is, while he is great at calculating the best move based on information he has, he tends to overlook the possibility that there might be information he doesn't have. For example, his fatal mistake is that he never considered that the Jubi might have a will of its own. Speaking of which, the Jubi will be the protagonist of our next episode. But until then, let us appreciate the beauty of the moves Madara did play. This Rinne Tensei was just fantastic.